Welcome to Art with Ian. Today we're talking about environment design. That's coming up next. All right, welcome to episode 2 of the environment design series. Today we are talking about perspective and camera. This is a really important part of designing really anything. It doesn't matter if it's characters or vehicles or environments. You should know how to make a perspective grid, and you should be thinking about what kind of camera, kind of put on your photographer hat, basically. Think about it like if you're going to go get a shot of something, what camera lens would you use to get that shot? And that's, that's how you want to approach this. So let's go ahead and talk about perspective a little bit. So what is the reason for perspective? Why do we use perspective? Well, it keeps the design consistent to your camera, grounding the viewer in the shot. That's number one. It allows you to clearly differentiate between the planes above and below your chosen horizon. This is most notably helpful like for interior design, but it's just nice to always know what am I looking up at and what am I looking down at. And with a perspective grid in place, it's really easy to get your to make better decisions about how the viewer should be seeing the objects you place in your scene. And it makes it much easier to see these objects as you place them in 3D space within your composition. It becomes a lot, you start to see three-dimensionally instead of just seeing a flat screen. The grid helps you to look into the three-dimensional space. So let's talk very quickly about camera here, okay? I'm not going to go into depth about camera, but just enough to kind of talk about it. So we're going to be using a wide lens camera. The two options I like to use for wide are 24 millimeter and 18 millimeter. And 24 is probably the more typical for me. It's probably like kind of one of the safe wide. You don't get a lot of skewing. You don't get a lot of, warp of the lens on the outsides of your image when you use 24, but enough to help push and feel wide. Getting into 18, it starts to really warp. It starts to really skew those sides of the convergence going to the third point of perspective becomes really pushed. And you'll see that as we build our grid. I think that the shot, the thumbnail I did, I think is probably more like an 18 millimeter camera, to be totally honest. So I got a picture, one little example here, to talk about what happens to the world around you when you look at it through a very wide camera lens. So let's look here at this building. It's not small by any means, but it's not this big. It's not as big as it looks. Like, look at how small. Look at this arch here, and look at how small it has become. If we were to take that arch and bring it up here, it would be like this big inside here. And that we have not gone back that far to merit this kind of push in the perspective. And that's what you have to keep in mind. So in the case of my thumbnail, I needed to get a really big cliffside kind of mountainous chunk of rock to fit in the camera. And so I used a wide so that you can see it, because it doesn't take very long as they go away from you with a wide lens for things to start getting small, because the perspective is pushed so hard. But what you have to do, or what you have to keep in mind when you do this, is that things that are even farther away, like the mountains behind my cliff, they might be, Mount Everest sized mountains, but if you can't make them these super crazy tall things, because they're, as things go back into space, they're shrinking so drastically that the camera doesn't allow, like if you were to put a huge mountain in this scene, right, like this, it wouldn't look believable, because think about how the convergence is going down so fast. A mountain would be, like that, probably, like that would be a huge mountain. So this is really important to keep in mind. So when you choose a camera, just know that it comes with some cost, but try to pick a camera based on what your shot really needs. So anyways, that's enough about that. Let's go ahead and grab our thumbnail. pull that in. Okay, so just a little recap here of the composition talk we had. If you didn't watch the first episode, I'll put a link up for that, and you can go ahead and check that out before you dig into this. But anyway, so let's go ahead and collapse these down. So what we want to do now is we want to build a grid that works for this image, because when I sketched, if you recall, I said I'm sketching with the fundamentals in mind and perspective in mind, but I don't want a grid to force my decision-making process. So let's just go ahead and create a new layer, and let's find our horizon. So typically, if there's a person in a shot and nothing weird is going on, the horizon is right around their head. In this case, I'm actually thinking that the viewer is lower than them, like they've gone up this bit of a grade here. So I'm gonna go ahead and just drop a horizon in about like maybe right here. Okay, so that's our horizon. So that means that all the vanishing points, or the first and second vanishing point, are going to converge or going to exist on this. So our grid is going to converge into this vanishing point. But the third point is going to converge up off into space. So let's go ahead and first figure out what our let's go ahead and figure out our first vanishing point. And it's actually basically right here in front of us. So the first vanishing point is you could say that you're standing right in front of this building, and the vanishing point is basically right here. So there's a really excuse me, got something in my throat. There's a really neat way to build a grid. I'm gonna have to go ahead and get out of this view that I'm in so I can get to my toolbar. So what we want to do is we want to come down here to your tool, your shape tool, and you're going to get the polygon tool selected, and up here you want to select pixels. So if it's on shape or path, change it to pixels, and then over here in this gear here, you want to click on star and indent sides by 99, thickness 1, color doesn't really matter. And then for sides, you want the sides to be set to 100. And so now I can come, I'm just going to put that over here. So now I can come over here where my vanishing point is, and I can click and drag, and basically it's going to give me a radius of these spokes, right? So what I want to do is I want to hold down Shift. I want to get it close to my horizon, and then hold down Shift. It's actually not working out. It should grid it up, but anyways, I can see that I'm in line with my horizon with one of those spokes now, so I can let go, and that's basically my first point of perspective. So I've got now, I see the vanishing point, and I see all the guides for my one point, right? Now the second point of perspective, the vanishing point is so far off to the right that there's almost the second point of perspective is almost non-existent. However, when I sketched, I didn't even put it in at all because I knew that the convergence was going to be so minute. I'm actually going to tweak the sketch once I put my vanishing point in. So what we need to do here is hit Control R to get our rulers pulled up, and I'm going to zoom way, 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 way out of the image. And I'm going to pull a line out here somewhere, and I'm going to pull one to my horizon. How come that's not showing? That's weird. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to test this spot right here as my area to pull my second vanishing point from. So I'm just going to go ahead and click from I made my VP. I'm clicking and dragging. I'm going to try and line up to that. I hold down shift, I line up to that horizon grid. And I can see just by looking at it that it's far too pushed. Where these lines go over my image are way too pushed. So that means that I don't like it. So I'm gonna hit Control Z and back this off even farther. I'm gonna try coming way out here. Maybe that's a little too far. Let's try that. Okay, again, holding shift to hold my grid. Okay, now when I see one of these lines going across, it seems pretty close. Let's check it. So there's the line. Now I would be able to build the rest of the grid myself. Excuse me. But even that feels potentially too pushed for me. So I think I might actually go a little bit farther even still. When I said that the second vanishing point is super far away, I was not kidding. So let's try from out here. Okay, so now we've almost got nothing showing up here. I'm just going to click and let go, and then I'm going to actually change my color. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a brush, and I'm just going to use like legitimately like a hard round brush, like no texture, no settings basically at all, just a regular hard round brush. And I'm going to click on my VP. So I'm going to I'm going to line up, see my crosshairs, I'm going to line those up with my intersection. I'm going to click, I'm going to come over here, hold down shift, and click again. And then I'll come back, click, hold down shift, and come up a little higher, and click again. And let's just zoom in and check these lines now. Okay, this feels better. This feels better. So basically now what I could do is I could go ahead and continue just going back to that vanishing point I created and coming over here and clicking, or I could fake it. I could, it's actually, the lines are a little too big, but I could fake it and go, okay, what's halfway between here and click here, and then what's halfway between here and click here. Like, it just depends on how like legitimately perfect I kind of want it to be. So that's something I'll do probably after this episode. I'll finish that up. But now that leaves us with one more. We have one more convergence to deal with, and that is the third point. And we can see here from this main kind of where I put my first point of perspective, we can see that somewhere in here is where the perfect center. See how these this side of the cliff is converging to the right, and this side of the cliff is converging to the left. This part of right here, this part of the gate is converging left, and this part of the gate is converging right. That means somewhere in here we've got our center, and basically the way I set it up is that the center is supposed to pretty much be on, like right through the center of the gate. So based on that, I'm going to drag another grid line right to the middle of my gate, basically. And I'm going to zoom way out again. I'm going to change my color to like something different. Maybe go like a little greenish. And I'm going to get my polygon tool, and now I need to drag out from somewhere up here. This is my third point, right? My third vanishing point. This is where the convergence going upward comes from. So as I drag this down, staying with my grid, let's see how these lines look compared to what I was doing. This looks pretty good. Let's zoom in and check it out. Okay, so you can see here See the grid line in relationship to my convergence. See how it's getting straighter until it gets perfectly straight right here. Then it starts converging left, and it keeps getting more and more skewed. This is what I'm talking about when I say how skewed things get in a super wide angle lens. I would say that's probably good enough. It might not be quite skewed enough. So might have gone a little too high. Let's try it from here. Is that like exactly where I was last time? I don't know. No, I think that's actually just a little bit better right there. That feels pretty spot on. So now we've got that third point. We've got our convergence going out to that third point. And so now I can use this when I'm drawing details in the gate and when I'm working on these towers and doing the windows and all of those things. I can use these points to basically make sure. And this isn't like doing the interior of a building where the perspective has to be absolutely spot on, or doing even the exterior. Like, there's not nearly as much architecture going on here as there would be in some shots, and that makes this a much better intro into perspective for any of you guys who are just getting into this. An environment like this is much easier to handle the perspective. Like the rock, it's not man-made, and so the rock could be doing whatever the hell it wants, really. But it's really nice to have these grids to help make sure we feel like we're pushed into the right camera and keep things consistent. And certainly for this gate and these towers up on the mountain and this man-made stuff here, like this is going to be like a waterfall, and you can see that like the way that I sketched it was just straight, and so getting that little bit of convergence on that is going to be nice. And just in general, we can also see what the ground plane is. Everything below that horizon, that's our ground plane. So now we can very simply and easily see this is what the character, the person looking at this shot, point of view, this is what they see. This is the ground they see. This is the sky they see. So everything from this line up is they're looking up, and everything from this line is looking down. So I think that pretty much wraps up the way I like to create a grid. Hopefully this helps you learn how to build your own grids. It's really important to make your own grids to suit the needs of whatever it is you're drawing, and not just find a grid someone made on Google or something and just, not all grids are going to work for whatever it is you want to do. So knowing how to make your own is really important. So I really hope this helped you out. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Next episode, we're going to be getting into reference material and, building up a good reference sheet for getting into paint. And I'm looking forward to that. So don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the bell, and I will see you guys in the next one. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, share it with your friends, ring the bell for notifications of future videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.